Let me begin by, first of all, congratulating CPPR and its outstanding team for an excellent day of discussions and some wonderful panelists who have been brought together. Please give the CPPR team a big hand. Let me also thank my colleagues in the Ministry of External Affairs for having supported this Kochi Dialogue and having brought foreign policy to Cochin, to Kerala, where it very rightly deserves to be here. Every year, we should gather here like this. In particular, I welcome all my friends from GCC who have taken the time and trouble to be here today. Friends, I would start with a few opening remarks. The title of the session is Leveraging the Diaspora Connect. But how much do we really understand the diaspora? What are the challenges of leveraging the Diaspora Connect? That is the first question which comes to one's mind. We all know there is a big, huge diaspora. The number of 9 million has been mentioned. But what is not adequately understood in India and amongst, I think, the Indian community in the Gulf is how unique this phenomenon is of not just the large number of Indians, but the large number of foreigners in the Gulf. How many parts of the world are there? How many regions are there where foreign nationals vastly outnumber local nationals and there is no conflict, there is no tension, there are no difficulties amongst communities? And we from India are particularly privileged, and we should be honored and grateful to our friends from the GCC for the warm welcome which has been extended to us and the continuing welcome despite these huge numbers. The overall number of Indians in the GCC have only been growing. And this is truly a tribute to the enlightened leadership in the GCC and to all GCC nationals who are not just committed to pluralism in the world, but also to welcoming Indians. Please, I request you, give a big hand of applause to our friends from the GCC. So this is truly something very unique. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world, and therefore we need to understand the process, we need to nurture the process, we need to take care that the process does not go in wrong directions at any time. The second factor is when you have 9 million people in any small region of the world, we have to realize that there are bound to be challenges. The Indian diaspora is extremely complex. As we saw in the previous discussion, which touched upon health, upon education, there are many factors which affect the Indian diaspora. So the complexity of the Indian diaspora has to be fully understood, and the challenges, and let me mention one particular challenge, which is human rights, if we can say so, labor rights, problems of trafficking which exist in the movement of people from India to the GCC, problems of trafficking in women which exist, or abuse of housemaids, and a variety of other problems when there is a COVID, when there is a crisis, trying to bring people back, etc. But what I want to assert here is that all our embassies put together, if we collect all the complaints that come to us and multiply it by 10 or multiply it by 100, even then it is a very small fraction of the total population which lives there. The large majority of the Indian diaspora in the GCC are working successfully, contributing to the economies back home. They are happy being there, their families are happy, and their families back in India are being well supported. So the problems, if any, that exist in the GCC are very minor and minuscule compared to the total population. And both the GCC governments and the Indian governments are working together to address these problems, to solve these problems, and to try and create systems which work efficiently. The third point I want to mention here is trends, and I request my panelists to come in on all these points. There are a number of trends. The flow of people from India to the GCC countries or the community which exists there, it is not a static process. there are trends. One of the most important which affects India is what is known as nationalization policies in all GCC countries, localization policies. Naturally, GCC countries are anxious that their own people occupy important positions, are capable of rising to the top positions, and they take leadership in their economy. Similarly, taxation. One of the big attractions for Indians to go and live in the Gulf is the fact that there is no income tax there. Till recently, there was no VAT. Now VAT has been introduced. And India has an income tax regime which specially privileges people of Indian origin who live abroad. If you live abroad for 6 months, your entire income abroad is tax-free. And how long will the Indian government continue these policies is a question mark. And if these policies change, if income tax comes, if VAT becomes universal, will the diaspora presence there and their contribution change? We have to look at it. Similarly, remittances, as per World Bank data, are coming down from the Gulf. Remittances of Indians in US and Europe are growing. Remittances from the Gulf are coming down. It is also estimated that the number of Indians in the Gulf, while still a very large number, the growth rate is slowing down. The fourth point, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality that this large presence of the diaspora in foreign countries in GCC may not last forever. India has to prepare for the diaspora coming back. India has to think in terms of how this diaspora can use their experience of living abroad to create change back home, to bring investments back home, to create the way business is done back home. And this you can see across the city, Cochin, across the state, where Arabic food has become very popular, where a large number of institutions, establishments have been created by people who have returned from the Gulf. And last and most important point, what more can we do? We have an outstanding relationship in terms of the diaspora's presence in the GCC, their relations with GCC nationals, but still there is a feeling that there is much more which can be done. What more can be done? How can we leverage the presence of the diaspora, their influence, their talent, to build better relations between the countries and to make more trade, more investment, more people-to-people contacts, more cultural contacts, more tourism, visits for medical treatment all happen. So these are the questions I throw it to you. With the permission of all panelists, I would like to start with Sarah, who's the only representative of GCC here and the only woman on the panel. Zara, my first question to you is, we all know the good things about the Indian community. What would you say frustrates you? What is the area where you think the Indian community can do better and should do better? And a minor question which emerged from the previous panel. There are Indians who complain that people from UK, people from US get a faster track, they get better treatment, their degrees are recognized when Indian degrees are not recognized. Is there still in GCC societies in Bahrain a bias towards the West?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Namaste and good afternoon. I know everyone thanked the CPPR. I want to thank the audience for staying until this time to listen to us. So a special applaud for all our audience. Thank you. Since you asked me this question yesterday, I've been thinking. I'm on the board of Bahrain India Society. India has a special spot for me because in the 90s I lived as a student. Indians are all around us in Bahrain. There are actually Bahrainis who are originally Indians. So there is a lot of relationships. So what really frustrates me, because this question has been in my mind, sometimes I believe that the Indian community themselves, they don't value what they can contribute. They shy. I even went and I researched, is this something in the culture? Because I was thinking, not only in Bahrain, all over the world, Indians, they are everywhere. They are in the space, they are doctors, they are teachers, they are in AI. But when they come and speak about themselves, you see them shy off, you see them isolate themselves. In Bahrain, there's a big community of Indian accountants, doctors, but they never mix with others. In the school, we were talking about schooling, you see them grow up, but they are isolated. So again, I researched more. Again, I'll talk about Bahrain. So in Bahrain, we have over 38 regulated clubs and societies, and 30 which are not. So you're talking about 60 clubs for a small country like Bahrain. So this means all their activities are among the Indian community themselves. They do not mix with others. And I think this is something which will always create a barrier. I learned Japanese a few years ago. Why? Because the Japan government, they started investing in educating any Bahraini who wants to learn Japanese for free. And then they have something called the Japanese Friendship Ship, where they take Arabs from all over, and I think international, and they take them to the ship. Japan is very, very far from us, and we don't have all these historic, but they came to us. So I think I will blame the government more and the Indian individuals. They need to connect more. They should not shy. They should not put this barrier, because they have everything that makes them really the most close to any GCC. So that's why. We grew up with Hindi cinema. Many people speak Indian language because of the Hindi cinema. However, even that, we don't see any, like suddenly the Turkish and the Korean now, they all came into our cultures because of their cinema, or whatever they call it, al-halaqat, the soap opera. Not, with all what we had with India, there was no focus on that. So this is, I will put the blame in your side more than our side. This is one.
Is there a bias towards the West?
No, I don't think there is a bias. Okay, there is a bias towards the West. Even us Bahrainis, us Arab, we think that. If somebody coming with a degree from USA, we will think, oh, they will consider them different. We even have this feeling. But I do not witness this. I think, again, I can only speak about my country. We have very clear regulations. If your qualification is approved, you will be considered as there. It's up to you how you will sell what you have. In Bahrain, we have many Indian hospitals, we have many Indian schools, and I'm sure in other countries as well. I come from a communication background. So I think what's missing is communication, it's networking, it's being there. This is what's missing. That's the only thing. One last point. Other places, they are very good in communication and in making it look wow, although they don't have the substance. It's different with you.
Taha, would you like to comment on this?
Thanks, Weni sir. As a representative of the brand ambassadors of Brand India, 9 million brand ambassadors who are in GCC, I would like to comment on the same thing. In fact, pre-session we had a discussion with Weni sir that this was one point which I was trying to tell. Yes, we have had centuries-long relationship with the Arab world. We have had a lot of history with them. We are someone who are trusted, a community which is trusted by the Arab world. And every one of the local family in GCC will have some Indian working with them, either as their domestic help or their partner or as the part of their business. But at the same time, the relationship which we have with the Arab people, the local people, it is more personal, not institutional. That is one area I think we can improve. What I have felt is we operate in silos. There are a lot of brilliant individual success stories of Indian men making it good, but we don't represent ourselves as one community who can do well. I think it is time that we need to, thanks to the effort of the predecessors who have done a great job, the trust is there, and trust is built over time. And we have got that, which others will need a lot of time, because we have centuries of relationship, we have been peaceful, we have been working with them. But at the same time, as a community together, as an organized group, I think we need to do a lot of activities. We need to communicate, we need to over-communicate, we need to reach out to them. In Arab world, you know that there is a Majlis culture. How many of us spend time in the Majlis? How many of us go to understand their culture? How many of us try to embrace the culture? I'll give a personal example of mine. Initial few years when I was working, I worked a lot with the local families in Qatar as well as in other GCC. Initial days I was wearing the Western outfits and I was sitting in the Majlis. And after some time, one day there was an event and I changed to the thobe and the kanjora or the thobe and igal, and so one day it was appreciated by them and they said, why don't you wear this every time? From those days onwards, last 10 years, they have been treating me as one among them. Then Arab world has a certain way of, they are very having a lot of hospitality. They treat us, we say, we do Aditi Devo Bhava. but they treat Gus like a baby, a new baby. So when somebody is going, they treat you really well. So are we shying away from that? Are we engaging more with them? That is something will bring us more closer. I think we can still improve. I'm not saying that we have not done a great job, but we can still improve.
What more needs to be done in getting Indian professional qualifications accepted?
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is 𝗃𝗵𝗲. I'm a chartered accountant. I've moved to the UAE 32 years back. I've been all along practicing. I've seen business people. I've worked in the Indian Business and Professional Council. I worked with the businesses. So I'll just bring that context into it and then maybe try to answer the first part of it. UAE, for example, has got 10 million people, and around 40%, 38% precisely is Indians. And out of that, 40% is from my own state, Kerala. So just want to bring, I'm not trying to be prejudiced or biased, but then generally I see Arabs would prefer to work with the South Indians because a couple of reasons. One, the people, most of the people who have moved up from this place, they have no industries, they have no opportunity to grow. So they just want to be hardworking, honest, in highest of their integrity. So they generally like those people, and they do not want to go out of the radar. They just want to keep themselves under the radar. This is one of the reasons why they you may say that, why are they not coming up on it? Now, certain state, in Kerala, there is this, I'm sure everybody knows district Thrissur. Thrissur, for example, Thrissur is an entrepreneurial capital, we would say, because all of the Lulus and all of those people are there. Now, one of the things what we see is there is something called a peer pressure. I'm seeing it because, okay, he's doing that, then why can't I? So this is one of the causes which I've seen. And, you talked about the VAT which came many years back in 2018. Before the VAT, it came in, before the taxes came in, the quality of the credit of lending of the banks was very, very low. So what happens is, it used to be like name lending. Banks used to look at you and look at your balance sheets or whatever it is, because there were no records to see whether there are actual businesses happening or not. So this peer pressure on one side, the desire to do businesses, I've seen many of our people from this particular place have run away from and skipped the debts from there and moved out from there. So I just wanted to just bring the two aspects into it. There are one side of it that I hope you understand that. Yeah.
Thank you. I would not agree with you in distinguishing between people in North India and people
I said that particular thing.
No.
The people, they appreciate that particular. What I'm saying is, some of the locals, they say this sort of thing.
But the objective factor is Kerala has had closer connections with the Gulf than any other region in India. And the people of Kerala have been traveling to the Gulf much earlier. Plus also an important, and 𝗂𝗵𝗲, maybe you can speak about it, there are more Arabic speakers in Kerala than probably any other part of India, and that helps a lot. 𝗂𝗵𝗲, would you like to comment on this? What can the Indian community do better? How do we forge closer relations with GCC nationals?
First of all, I take this opportunity to congratulate CPPR and Ministry of External Affairs for organizing this wonderful event for the formulation of a future policy of India in Middle East. And our respected Ambassador Venu sir and Suresh sir from Ministry of External Affairs and panelists and dear ambassadors and distinct guests, very wonderful day for you all. I hope this session will yield some result for the Ministry of External Affairs for doing some policy in the future. I am living in Saudi Arabia last 33 years, and based on my experience, the policy that Indian government and the Saudi side, because Saudi is the most important country in the Middle East. There is more than 2.6 million Indians are there in different fields. It includes the skilled, semi-skilled, professional, and other all categories. So the lives of Indians there, I hope from the beginning it was the policy was not so correct. There are some exploitation in the recruitment field also, and also Government of India introduced this immigrate system. And after that, the recruitment policy, the harassment and the exploitation of some agencies were minimized in the areas of housemaid and domestic workers, and also in the unskilled labor category. But for the for the total evaluation, after this this period, now India and Saudi Arabia have a good relation. So that based on that relation, the vision policy of 2030 of India and vision policy of 2030 of our Saudi Arabia, we have Vikasit Bharat and also mission, and also Saudi Arabia have its own mission. See, when you look at the policy of Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia and compared to Indian policy, there are a lot of opportunities are there to invest and to explore the different areas. How we can see the diaspora, the Indian diaspora in Middle East, especially in Gulf area, so they are the most remittance supporting diaspora from the world. The more than, I think, from the 90 billion, the most part of the remittance is coming from Gulf section. So for that, the welfare of that, the Indian embassy doing a wonderful support recently, because and not recently, from the last, in Saudi Arabia there was an amnesty happened for the Nikata system. During the Nikata system, the legalization process to be, at that time the recruitment was not so in a regularized manner. So those who are going in Saudi Arabia, it's not holding the legalized document. But when the Nidakat declare in Saudi Arabia, the Indian mission take an initiative with the support of our community network. So the Indian community that means the diaspora, there is a different association people, social workers, they are connecting to embassy. Embassy alone cannot do, but embassy supporting and extending all support to the, to the volunteers. So with the support of that, 15 lakh Indians were able to legalize. That means we support, Indian mission support to get the job opportunity to make it safe for 15 lakhs in a one mission. So I salute the Indian mission officials for giving such kind of appreciation. And recently, the differences happening now, now Saudi Arabia is a changing country. The culture of Saudi now not same like as you think before. Before you think about Saudi Arabia, we have a different version. But now, see, in Saudi Arabia, we are celebrating Onam. The culture of Onam, we are celebrating more than 3 months. I am participating in different association program. They are coming, how they support the Saudi community for the cultural exchange, the promotion of Indian culture. They are silently supporting. So they are like our Indian culture. So in India, in Kerala, we celebrating Onam one day. But in Gulf, we are celebrating Onam more than 3 months. I attended more than maybe 16, 70 occasions. And so the cultural promotion of India, the Indian government, we have to make some, some supportive measures. That means we celebrated, 𝗵𝗶 Parija. 𝗵𝗶 Parija celebration. The government of India has a policy all over the Indian mission, this 𝗵𝗶 Parija, this promotion of Indian culture, heritage, cuisine, our, different trade possibilities. And so to explore, to explore that potential, we celebrated by forming an all-Indian committee. We have a steering committee of all states, representing all states. So that model, on that basis, we from all state, different culture of different state, Indian beauty of different state, we celebrated it in Indian embassy.
We'll come back to some of these issues.
So on that basis, that model we can be accepted.
Shihab raises some important issues. One, the multiplicity of organizations, Indian associations, which exist across the GCC. I think all the Gulf governments have been trying to deal with it as to how to manage it. I know Dubai, Abu Dhabi and all UAE, there have been certain amount of restrictions. There is an official recognition process for associations. But yet, for all the Indian missions, the associations are force multipliers. The numbers are so large to reach to the community, it is impossible for embassies or consulates and their staff alone to do it. They need the support of the Indian community organizations, and it is through them that they reach out to the large community and also understand some of the problems which exist and try to find solutions. And let me mention, Shihab, the embassy and officers are doing a wonderful job, but that is part of our duty, our responsibility. But you are all volunteers, so the Indian associations truly must be admired for doing all this work without any interest in a remuneration, just for the sake of trying to find solutions. I think now we should turn to the representative of the Government of India. We have Dr. Suresh Kumar, who is Joint Secretary in charge of West Asia and North Africa, but he has also handled the Gulf Division from time to time, and he has served in Abu Dhabi before, so he knows the region well. From your perspective, Suresh, you have been listening to a number of comments. How do we leverage the Diaspora Connect better? What are the challenges that still remain, and how does it fit into India's overall plan for improving political relations with the leaders in the Gulf?
She has a point when she said that Indians as a group are largely keeping to themselves. I have seen that firsthand in Abu Dhabi. So, like, probably as one of the reasons is the plethora of organizations and the social activities they themselves have. So probably that's one reason. But also, like, I would really say that we share the same cultural similarities. When we say we, like, it's India and the Arab world, we are very, very private people. Like, if you look at, we don't easily invite people home. Just because we know someone in an office, we don't easily invite home. The moment someone invites home, that means you have really reached a particular level in the relationship. Probably that's one reason, because this is a cultural issue with we as a culture, the Eastern culture. So that's where it's coming from. But if you look at the organized effort to reach out, there's been a number of efforts from the Government of India. So I can easily say that the Indian cultural centers that we established in all these capitals, like, these are efforts to promote Indian culture to the local population. So, like, if you look at classes, the language classes there, the art classes there, the yoga classes there, and so that's a conscious effort to reach out to the local population and in a way, like, promote Indian culture. So there is a conscious effort, but should we do more? I think we should be doing more, and there is an effort towards that. And coming to the larger relationships, so, like, I've served in the region, like, if you can add Jordan as a part of the region, 2007, and then I went to Abu Dhabi in 2017. In these 10 years, like, I've seen the qualitative shift in the partnership between our two countries and the region, because, like, from a largely, like, it's largely a trade, buyer-seller, consular relationship. The amount of meat that we have put into the relationship has been significant. Like, today, like, colleagues and speakers have been saying that the GCC is an extended neighborhood. I would go further and say we are maritime neighbors. We are just on either side of the Arabian Sea. So we are maritime neighbors. We have cultural affinities and a lot of things that bind us together. But today, like, we are also strategic partners with 4 of these countries. Like, if you look at our partnerships with UAE, Saudi, like, Oman, Kuwait recently, we are at a strategic level. And even our partnership with other countries is also exceedingly well. So from what we used to be, like, largely as an oil trade, like, we are still dependent, 1/3 of our oil and 2/3 of our gas comes from the region. But then today there's a transformational change in the relationship. Like, so, like, if you go to today, like, ADIA Mubadalas, like, there is a keen interest for them to come and invest in India. I'm sure that's so similar is the case with PIF in Saudi, the Kia and the QIAs and all. Like, they are looking for opportunities here. So there is a phenomenal and a qualitative change in the way the relationship has progressed and developed over the last decade and a half. And if you look at the role of the diaspora in this, that's been phenomenal. Because we always say diaspora is a living bridge between India and the GCC countries, and it's a two-way process. it's a win-win for both India and the GCC countries. When we go and meet any interlocutors in the Gulf countries, they have a positive approach towards India because they have worked with the Indians, they know, because already there's a trust that's been developed. The moment you say you represent the Indian embassy, like, there is a certain level of trust. Even over the last few years, like in any capital, not necessarily in India or in the Arab world, any capital in the world, there is an extreme amount of familiarity and also like a lot of comfort when we communicate with our colleagues from the Arab world. There is, Oman ambassador, His Excellency will attest to the fact. So because there is a similarity in the culture and deep understanding. And this deep understanding comes from the fact that most of them have already interacted with n number of Indians. And when it comes to, like, if you ask any of the colleagues and others from the Arab world, like, what they think of the Indians, like, there are a few adjectives that they use. And the certain adjectives come repeatedly in all the conversations. One is, of course, they are peaceful, hardworking, rule-abiding, and they have in the hearts and the minds the welfare and the development of the country where they are. So these are the adjectives that comes across the board.
We in India wonder how they are so well behaved in the Gulf, but not necessarily in India.
So this already gives you probably, like, when you start a conversation, so there's already a trust, because the most difficult part in a conversation is to build trust. So here, like, the trust is already built, or like at least there's a platform for you. So this is where we always say that Indian diaspora is actually like is an ambassador for India there.
Suresh, you are an Arabic speaker. The government sent you to learn Arabic.
Yes.
How important do you think it is for the diaspora to learn Arabic? Sahara was talking about Hindi or Indian languages for Arabs, but how important is Arabic?
So because one is just not the language. Learning Arabic helps you to understand the culture, the personality, where the other person is coming from, the way the other person is thinking. So it's extremely important to know a bit of the language and the cultural milieu in which the conversation is taking place. Because otherwise, like, we can be in the same room talking to each other, but we're talking in Greek and Latin. So, like, that doesn't help. So knowing a bit of a language helps because it gives that cultural connect and helps you in understanding the context of the conversation. So it's extremely important. At least learn a bit of the language and definitely learn the culture. Like, that's what I always say.
So it will be very useful for all our associations to try and teach and encourage people to learn Arabic when they live there. Ajit, I turn to you. Ajit represents Nauka Roots, which is an agency of the Kerala government for outreach to overseas Keralites. And you're a pioneer within India in terms of an organization like this. Do you teach Arabic to people who are going abroad? What kind of programs, pre-departure training programs do you have? And what are the problems that you see the Indian community confronting?
NORCA is the pioneering platform in India itself. It's a flagship arm of the government of Kerala in migration, mobility management and governance. And it's formed in 1996 and started its operation. NORCA has indeed played a pioneering role within India in outreach of non-resident Keralites, implementing numerous welfare schemes on behalf of the government of Kerala. The challenges, firstly I will narrate the challenges faced by the migrants, because most of the schemes of the NORCA are evidence-based schemes and specifically designed to address the vulnerabilities of our migrants in the Gulf countries. So the challenges faced by the Kerala migrant workers in Gulf Cooperation Council region has evolved over a period of time, reflecting a broader trends in migration and labor conditions of the GCC. In the early years of the migration, Keralites faced significant challenges such as irregular recruitment, and most of the irregular migration was rampant. It restricted kafala system and sponsorship system of the Middle East created problems. The language barrier was there, limited access to basic services and minimum consular support, and lack of information on basics on law and absence of social protection system in the Gulf countries all created challenges for our migrants. So, concerted efforts of the Government of India and the GCC government. So nowadays, almost lot of efforts made to mitigate all these problems, and reforms in the kafala system, particularly in the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait have been crucial. And language is no longer a significant barrier, as English is nowadays become widely spoken in the GCC. The technology advancement is there, specifically, especially the rise of mobile phones are there, internet have made information more accessible, while initiatives like Indian government's e-migrate system and the introduction of minimum referral wages have significantly improved the situation of blue-collar workers in the GCC. So another important shift is the upward social mobility of the second and third generation of Malayalis. Today, many of them technically qualified persons. So they are all getting better employment in qualified as a technicians, professionally qualified persons are getting professional jobs. However, challenges are still persist, particularly around job security and absence of comprehensive social protection mechanism. Access to legal services and inefficiency of grievance redressal system also remains significant concern. The tourist visa regime, which often sees job seekers arriving in GCC without proper work authorization, can lead to precarious and unsafe situation. Here, the NORCA runs pre-departure orientation program. Language training is also we are offering. So we already started NORCA Institute of Foreign Language for supporting prospective and potential migrants from Kerala. On the vulnerable sectors, that domestic service workers, nurses, women migrant workers, we are providing pre-departure orientation courses and pre-decision orientation program for supporting them.
Taha, you wanted to say something? You were
just wanted to add to what the Joint Secretary had mentioned about the language. Even though now, again, the fellow panelist was mentioning that language is, the barrier is coming down with, people also learning English. But at the same time, understanding the culture part of it, especially Arab language, people use a lot of salutations. They, for example, we meet somebody, we may ask one time, how are you? But in Arab culture, they ask a few times. They ask about your family, they ask about your health, your work, your business. So that kind of things, that sensitivity, if we are able to, and when we make an attempt, they really appreciate it. So even if we are not the masters, when we make the attempt, they appreciate it, and we need to, educate our people about using this. I think it will help.
Right. Shihab, you heard Ajit talk about some of the challenges, some of the problems NORCA deals with.
Yeah.
You are a grassroots community worker in Saudi Arabia. What are the people's problems that come to you? How do you try to help them?
Yeah. The problem that we are facing especially in Saudi Arabia, recently the kafala system, they make changes because the sponsorship rule was cancelled. Now there is a contractual based rules was established. So they're not same like the old kafala system. That means the sponsor not available, no compulsory. That means anyone, we are going for a contractual period. For example, a 2-year contract. After this 2-year contract or 1-year contract, they can find a new sponsor, reference to the new policy. So they can change. But for that, they have to register in the 𝗃𝗏 portal. There is a labor department, there is a special portal, 𝗃𝗏 portal. They have to register in that portal. That's I am like to continue the contract, or I would like to discontinue, I want to go exit, or I want to find a new sponsor. So there is a good opportunity for the professional to find a new opportunity, better salary, and this is one thing. This is one area. But in another area, the problem, even though there is a contractual agreement between the sponsor and the worker, but some sponsors still not, companies are still not comply with that contract. Then that time, what they face, the problem, they are not renewing their 𝗃𝗏 in time. Because not renewing their 𝗃𝗏 in time, according to Saudi labor law, those who are staying without a valid documents, they become illegal. When they become illegal, what's the problem? When the police authority, when they are searching the document, they are absence of document. So they are the illegal state. So they are catching them and putting them, arresting them in the deportation center. So they are going from here as a legal person and they are coming someday. This is some special areas only, in unskilled areas only. And so they are coming back as an illegal. Means once they are put in a jail, they cannot go back there because that's one thing. Because the 𝗂𝗵𝗲 renewal is the duty of the sponsor. But sometimes the sponsor company cannot renew because of there are a lot of new policies were established for the Southeast Asian, for the company be in a green category. For a company in green category, they have to keep some specific norms of the country. So this area, what's the problem? Actually now more than 1 lakh Indians were, Saudi government declared an amnesty. Those 𝗂𝗵𝗲 category can get exit visa from the embassy and the concerned Labor Department permission through deportation center. So they can come freely to India and back to another job opportunity. This is now grace offer. My request for this exit, there are a lot of people are in queue now. The government of Saudi Arabia can possess, all countries are getting the same opportunity. But, they are daily getting few exit. We getting few exit. But the number of laborers are more. This is one area. So, the Minister of External Affairs make some special discussion with the concerned authority to not arrest our Indians because of absence of document. This is the duty of the sponsor, not the duty of the worker. So don't make arrest our citizen. This is one area. And for getting those already there, to get them exit safely and other things. And those who are going on contractual basis, they should come back to the country for another job opportunity. But sometimes they are not able to get a proper job opportunity. So for this area, what we can do, the governmental authorities, concerned state authorities, same like in 𝗁𝗏. For example, 𝗁𝗏 can promote them for rehabilitation. For rehabilitation of the unskilled laborers or the semi-skilled laborers or the skilled laborers. So they have more experience, more skill. These laborers or skilled professional, even professional also, their potential can be reused for the development of the country. So we have to make a job portal, same all state. I am requesting the all state department, same like Kerala model to be established and find a job opportunity. And also for that, in SME area, to re-establish them, to rehabilitate them, governmental authorities have to give some, incentive, some support, and also easiness of the policy. This is one thing.
I have a question. There is a movie which has been shortlisted for an Oscar called The Goat Life. It is based on a novel of a person who actually went to an anonymous Gulf country and was forced to live in slave-like conditions. It has created a lot of controversy in social media in the Gulf. What are your comments about that movie? Does it represent a reality?
Sir, actually, The Goat Life is not the real story. They only cover the negative areas of one side. There are a lot of positive side of Saudi culture. So the goat life actually, this is the life, actually it is not showing the goat life story, but it's a journey story they are projecting. Not exactly saying this one thing. This make a great criticism in the Arab world. Actually, in the youth, this goat life story, I think written before 35 years. See this, now we are in the 2025. See, 35 years ago, one story projecting now. See, this is the cultural diplomacy.
So you're saying those conditions no longer exist.
Sir, this is
it is from 35 years back.
This damage the culture and heritage of Arabs. So it means the film making should not be at the cost of diaspora. And also it should not be at the expense of Indian diplomacy. Because India is a growing country. And
I'm not sure filmmakers will agree with
sir,
you.
we are.
Let 𝗂𝗏 respond. 𝗂𝗏, you are familiar with this?
I'm familiar with this, but as a business owner, maybe we should also do a film about sponsors who suffer when people, for example, we spend so much money and we invest and we train, and then they do not follow the regulations. So I think the problem is on both sides, but maybe the diaspora, or how you call them, they suffer more because they are the majority. Problems are always there. If we will sit and talk about problems, we will never finish. And Shahab said it clearly, 35 years ago is different than now. That doesn't mean the people, the culture has changed. There has been more communication. Because of the internet, because of the social media, cultures are becoming closer to each other. So everybody will look at the film from his or her perspective. Doesn't mean it's true, it's not true. We haven't lived that life. But maybe that person who lived it, he doesn't know what the sponsor was living. So again, I will not comment on the film, but I will say there are always opportunities. Talking about Saudi Arabia, it is leading the show now. We are very proud on the transformation, the reforms, the open policies. We never expected ourselves to attend a concert in Saudi Arabia and not in UAE. This is an amazing transformation. It's not about the concert itself, but it's how things are going forward, how things are changing with the development of the whole globe, let's say. So I think maybe we should now focus on what's coming for everyone, what are the opportunities, what are the sectors, how they can do more cultural, intercultural activities. Right. Later on, if you can ask me why tourists don't come to India, I have a comment on that, but I will leave it.
But can I just ask a quick follow-up question to Zara? What about localization policies or nationalization policies? How is it in Bahrain, and what do you know about the region?
We are very proud of the localization policies in the whole Gulf. This means that oil was discovered in the 30s, the education came. We were using the expertise from all over the world. Now, our Bahrainis, our UAEs, our Omanis, they are capable, and this is their country, to really serve the country, but that doesn't mean that there is no connection. We still need talent. We still need expertise to come in, but we want our own local talent to grow. The Indians who have been there for a long time, as you said, they can see how they can do joint projects, how they can do training. That doesn't mean, but yes, this is something we're very proud of. I'm very proud, and I hope it continues.
Taha and James, the localization policies, will it lead to large number of Indians returning to India? And how about the taxation systems, the introduction of VAT? How will it make a difference to the diaspora there?
Yeah. So in UAE, we have got 11% of the UAE nationals and 89% expatriates. So 11% used to be like mostly they work in the banks, and they used to be working in the immigration and government jobs and insurances. But scenario has changed now because there are a lot of opportunities for to work in the private sector as well. So they have introduced this one in the last 3 years' time. By 2026, 10% of the workforce has to be UAE nationals. So you look at Oman, it's 50%. You go other countries, there are different percentages. Any organization which is having more than 20 people in a license, you have to start with one UAE national, and you have to actually take it up to 10% by 2026 in every. So I see some of the organizations doing some offshoring of work because they see that they open up different licenses, different companies, or they reduce that number so that they do not have to. And one of the things I just wanted to say is, a gentleman from Excellency, you are here from UAE. We find people and we want to train them, but they do not even want to actually speak or come on the phone. Forget about coming to the office because they are on the payroll, but we do not cannot make use of it because they speak Arabic, they are educated well, but at the end of the day, not everybody. I'm talking about a sector of people who have to be employed and they come on board, but then they come. So that's one of the feedback we've just put away. And we are in touch with More, we are in touch with all of those organizations where they they do this. That's a feedback from us on it. But so just to say that, yes, there is a little bit of reduction, but otherwise, most of the people have found this opportunity there UAE has given them an opportunity. They are willing to help and train the UAE nationals and build that one. So it's not to that extent that, they're wanting to send everybody, cut down their business. They are all okay, because there is a fine of 96,000 dirhams per employee. If you do not have that one, is charged on to them, and they just want to use that also to make sure.
Is income tax imminent?
So we have UAE VAT, which came in 2018. So it's been 6 years now, 5% VAT. Then corporate tax has come in from 2023 June onwards. Corporate tax, there is no income tax, but it's on the card at some point in time. I think it is like, because IMF, OECD, all of these countries, they're putting a little bit of pressure on the countries to make sure that diversify their income. So that's coming up. But looking at 9%, so I'm a practicing chartered accountant. We thought, okay, Indian companies and other companies won't come into the UAE once the tax system is introduced. But it is working on the contrary. You're finding, because we heard somebody speaking about the double taxation, avoidance, all of those taxes. There are organizations, Indian establishments now setting up businesses. They are, taking advantage of the 9% lower tax credit. On an average, India would be around 25.61% is a tax slab here. So if you can take advantage of that one, people are moving in. I mean, I just take one more minute to say, supposing you are an Indian organization, you're exporting items to different parts of the world. Now, for example, whatever income you earn in India is taxed at whatever percentage of 25% because your income. Now, the UAE tax system has come in, a 9% tax system. But if you are operating a distribution business from a designated zone like Jebel Ali or any of the free trade zone, subject to the transfer pricing formalities are complied with, and subject to the substance, economic substance that you should have an office, you should have people employed there, you get 0% tax, because whatever income generated is exempted from tax. So most of the organizations, they try and look at this, establishing their branch or a setup there, and they do the business there on it. So, and also look at the better financing option available in the UAE. Today, 6% or 6.5% is, depending on the rates, which is coming down. So people want to take advantage of that situation, having establishment there, then having a turnover there, and then the Indian banks or foreign banks are willing to give. So a couple of these things, and this is Dubai has become a door for you to open for the GCC as well as the African market. Thank you.
Taha, you have something to add?
Yeah.
Can you also comment on rising cost of living in the Gulf, which is making it very expensive for the diaspora? Is that driving people to come back to India? Salaries in India have gone up, opportunities in India are many. And what would you advise small and medium enterprises in India on coming into the Gulf?
Yeah, so first I will address the national talent part of it, the nationalization, which every GCC country is focusing on national talent development. It is not about just nationalizing, it is about talent development. It is about giving them opportunity once the people are ready. It's the responsibility of any country and the sovereign right of any country to take care of their citizens first. But at the same time, as the part of the diaspora, what we need to do is, do we have only general skills? Are we only average, or do we have special skills? Are we skilling ourselves well? In the recent 𝗵𝗵 𝗠𝗵𝗲, our Prime Minister was talking about, we not just being the young population, we need to be the most skilled young population in the world. So that once that part is there, then the survival of the fittest will happen. In the short run, there can be threats, but in the long run, there will be benefits. That's regarding the national talent development. Regarding the taxation, in Qatar, we haven't had VAT yet implemented. We have only corporate tax of 10% for expat earn. Income tax, currently it is not there. So that part is, as of now, it is not there. But definitely for any country, when they have new systems coming in, there will be pluses and minuses, but they will not take anything, because at the end of the day, all the GCC countries are looking for development. There is a lot of development happening in Saudi Arabia. There are a lot of initiatives in UAE, in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, everywhere it is there. So to stay competitive, they will come up with rules which are good so that they can attract the right talent. So that will always be there. The problem is, are we a differentiator? Are we bringing in some difference? Then there will be definitely demand. About the rising cost, yes, there has been, initially when the population was less, obviously there were a lot of loopholes on which people were working. They were using shared accommodation. They were using, so these kind of things, once the country grows, once the population increases, the local governments make rules. One, to ensure safety. One, to ensure that even these part of, the hygiene factors, all these are taken care of. So there will be rise in, so at the end of the day, when there is a rise in cost and there is no benefit, definitely we have an option to come to India, which is a developing story, which is the growth story, the growth engine of the world as of now. And that is something which I, usually what I tell the local friends there is, we are the most commonly found raw material in the GCC after oil and gas. So, but a few years of working there, interacting with multinational people, we come back to India as a finished product with the global expertise. That is good for India also. We want these people here as well. So
what advice to small and medium enterprises?
So to come to Qatar, so for any small and medium enterprises or any business for that matter, for any of these GCC region countries, most of them have their national vision. For example, in Qatar, we have Qatar National Vision 2030 as well as National Development Strategy. So once anybody wants to go to any country, one thing which many a times businesses, what they do is they follow the crowd. But instead of that, we need to understand, we need to do a bit of market research. What is the country's national vision and development strategy? Am I in that field? Do I have a customer there? We need to do a little bit of market research. Then we need to have good networking with the people and understand how they are doing, because we have a huge diaspora there and any one of us will have our relatives, friends there, to understand what needs to be there, to have collaboration and joint activities with people who have already got experience. Instead of that, just jumping into the, we need to do a little bit of dipstick and do a proper homework, then there is opportunity anywhere, once we understand what the country is looking at.
Thank you. Dr. Suresh, question to you. What can India do to prepare for the return of large number of people from the Gulf to India?
We have a regular dialogue with our colleagues from the GCC countries. There's ongoing conversations. We have consular issues all through the year, so that's a continuing conversations we always have, and that's a comfort level between our two sides to the extent that we discuss everything that comes there. Over the last few years, if you look at, we have more than 20 agreements with different countries on how our Indians can access the global workspace. Like we have the labor manpower agreements, then we have the migration and mobility agreements. So more than 20 over the last probably 9-10 years that we have signed. So this gives an access to the global workspace, but in a regulated manner and a legal manner, so that our rights are protected and privileges and all are taken care of. So this, what does is that straight away the persons going to abroad under these mechanisms, they naturally know their rights and know that these are protected under an institutional mechanism. So that's still happening, and this is a work in progress. We are negotiating MMPAs with a lot of countries, and that's that. And the other thing is that what the missions are doing is, like, if you in fact, thank you for the compliments that over the last few years, our missions have been extremely responsive. In fact, I would even say proactive. Our consular services have been largely streamlined. Today, a lot of them are digital. Our welfare schemes are there. If you look at the grievance redressal mechanisms, the 𝗵𝗲 portal, that's one, it's an online portal and that's actively monitored. They have a big cell in the ministry which looks at every single complaint that comes in the 𝗵𝗲 portal. So there is a grievance redressal mechanisms that is continuously monitored, and so that's the whole ecosystem and the whole milieu. If you see, like, we have seen significant improvement in that, but the most important improvement I would say over the last few years is that the way we have responded to a community when it in crisis. So one example I can say was recently in Syria, like when we had the security issues there, like there was a group of pilgrims who had just landed in Damascus on the 5th of December. But our embassy was already in touch with them. They had gone to a shrine just south of Damascus. Our embassy was already in touch with them, and we had already arranged them to travel. But by the time their family and the friends reached out to us, we were already in touch with them, and we already arranged the transportation. So that's a kind of, so over the last few years, what's really like come to the fore is our diaspora really trusts, the amount of trust that they have the back of the government. Whenever there's a crisis, you have that government to back us. So that's a kind of trust that we have managed to develop over the last few years. So, but coming to a specific question, so like on what we are doing to observe the population coming back, of course, like this is a skilled population. I'm not privy to the data, so what's the number that we are looking at? But I know a lot of states are working on schemes and especially the loans that, especially because these are extremely talented people, like probably most of them may not even require capital, but we are helping with the capital and the initial like hand-holding that they need. But of course, this is something that I'm sure NORCA is doing a lot. I know the state in Tamil Nadu, that where I come from, they are doing a lot on how to rehabilitate people, because these are assets that's coming back. So they're well trained, where they had an exposure. When they're coming back, it's sometimes called the reverse brain drain. But this is something that we need to be prepared to make use of.
Thank you. Ajit, you're working in this field.
Yeah.
What provisions or what facilities does the Kerala government have for people coming back? Just keep it brief, please. We are running out of time, and we will end with culture.
Yes, sir. There is a significant trend of migrants returning from GCC. So, sir, according to latest Kerala Migration Survey, its number comes around 1.8 million, a substantial increase from the 1.2 million in 2018. So within 5 years, 0.6 million increase. So the rise can largely be contributed to the economic disruption due to the COVID pandemic, integration policies, and also decline in job opportunities in GCC. So recognizing this large-scale return, at NORCA we have been doing proactively preparing to tackle these reintegration challenges that come. So NORCA has adopted a two-pronged approach. The first, empowering these returnees through reintegration program. And we are the first state and the first agency to introduce economic reintegration program for the migrant returnees that started in 2013. And the 13 is also 2012. It was a
briefly, Ajit. We are running out of time.
And in 2013, we started a program called NORCA Department Project for Return Immigrant, supporting these immigrants to start to their enterprises. So we are supporting them through financial assistance. And 2021 also we started a program aftermath of the COVID-19 influx of migrant back to state, we 𝗵𝗶 𝗵𝗲𝗍, and through both the schemes, so far we supported 20,000 immigrants to start their own enterprises in Kerala.
So those are the two prongs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and another, so one more project we are just started. That is, we are supporting them to re-induction back to the domestic enterprises or domestic industry. So the skilled workers and laborers we are promoting, we are giving an incentive to this industry and employers to recruit these migrant returnees back in their domestic industries.
Thank you. Shihab, you wanted to speak about culture. What more can be done in the field of culture? Please be very brief. We'll give everybody a chance to speak.
Before culture, I just want to few points regarding the domestic workers side. Okay. And for
Briefly,
example,
please, because we are running out of time.
I'm finished. I'm going to finish. Because now the domestic workers agreement is not compulsory to register in e-migrant system. So it is
by domestic workers, you mean household staff?
Housemaid and other house driver and agricultural laborers like this, these field. I think there are total profession coming under this category. So these things, actually they are RA, recruitment agency, they are registering, but actually they are not correcting the documents, and the agreement they are not getting at the time of departure. And so when they reach there, they have to sign another agreement. So my request, this also should be bring to the embassy's attention to attest it, and e-migrate portal should be registered to avoid of exploitation of housemaid and domestic workers. This is one side. And also for the pre-departure courses, actually, those who are going for employment in Saudi Arabia, they have to pass their academic qualification certificate and the professional certificate to be verification. So this qualification and skill verification certificate should be get for employment, for getting a new job offer. This is a new rules of Saudi Arabia. For that, actually,
the details you can leave out, just mention the issues.
yeah, these things are actually,
Dr. Suresh will take note and
facilitation center should be established more, because for quickly recruitment process to be easy, we have to complete this process. So these things to be done. This is my request. And for the NORCA, actually they are giving for only the returned immigrants. But those who are staying in South or in Gulf countries, they want to make some SME registration or make some investment here, small investment. So if the government can support in that area, when they are coming back, they are not able to, they are only facilitating. Right. They are not giving any financial support, they are only facilitating.
He has noted it.
Yeah,
he has noted
this facilitation can be done by all governments, all state government. Okay. But for when they are in Gulf state, if they are doing this facilitation, the more investment will come in India. So the more development will be coming, and more investment will come. This is one thing. For the cultural level.
Very brief. We have gone out of time.
Sir, for the cultural, I said actually lastly in Saudi Arabia, actually Global Harmony Initiative program we are conducting. Means they are accepting the culture of especially India.
Just say what we should do in future.
We request the ICCR, Indian Cultural Center, to be established in all GCC countries for the promotion of Indian culture and heritage. This is one point. And also there is a No India program. So this No India program for the Indians only. We should facilitate to the
local
the Gulf students also.
Understood.
They should come and see India. They should also see the beauty of India, and the young generation, when they get the more idea about India, so they will,
very good suggestion.
Yeah.
I think there should be more joint cultural shows. In Bahrain, for more than 200 years, we have the temple, we have Diwali. Diwali is part of our calendar. It didn't come suddenly now, like many other neighboring countries in the last 10 years. It's been embedded in our culture. But I think there should be more joint cultures. You were asking me why Bahrainis are not coming to India. It was shocking for me to see how the visa obtaining process was a bit complicated. If I want to fly to UK as a Bahraini, I just go online and I submit, and in 2 hours I get my visa. Apparently, if I want to come to India, and I think Ashraf was with me at the embassy, it's such a complicated process, and we have to submit many papers, and it takes a few days.
Is there e-visa? There should be electronic visas.
Exactly. So
no, there is a system of electronic
visas. It's not.
Visas?
We both didn't. We both had to call the embassy to call for us, but this is one point. Because you were asking me many times,
yes.
And I asked many people, and they all told me, "Oh, going to India, the visa issue." It was shocking for me. This is one. I think there should be more intercultural activities, as Shahab said. Groups from Bahrain coming to India, students. This is not there. I haven't heard. The U.S. Embassy, they do it all the time. If the Indians are doing it, maybe they are not publicizing it, but I've never heard of it. So I think there should be more intercultural activity.
Thank you for these suggestions. And I think despite all the proximity that we have, what Zehra points out is that the number of tourists coming are actually very small. In the earlier discussion also, we saw the understanding of India in the Gulf countries has to grow much, much more than it is today amongst the GCC nationals. And similarly in India too, there is large amount of ignorance and misperceptions about the Gulf, and people see it in terms of stereotypes. There's much more that we should learn and understand with each other. There is much more which could be done in terms of medical tourism, in terms of entertainment collaboration, in terms of sports. The Gulf countries love football. This state in particular is a state where football is extremely popular. So there is a whole range of opportunities that we still haven't explored, and where the diaspora members who are already there, who connect the two countries, can do a lot. Thank you. Please give the panelists a big round of applause. I think the discussions have showcased the range and diversity of issues that affect the diaspora. The potential to leverage the Diaspora Connect is huge. This 1.5 hour discussion is not enough to do justice to the topic. But what is clear is that there is much, much more that we can talk about, much more policies and projects that we should create, and much more work we should do both in GCC countries in collaboration with our friends from the GCC as well as in India, to make sure that the diaspora becomes a force multiplier, a catalyst in bringing the two countries, the people, and our business communities together. Thank you very much.